I strangled my brother with his own hands last night, feeling the pulse of his betrayal fade under his fingertips. And damn if it didn't feel like justice served cold. He laughed in the courtroom as the judge slammed the gavel on my life sentence for a murder I didn't commit, his eyes gleaming like he'd finally won the family throne. But now he's the one rotting in a cage of his own making. And the real kicker? I traded my body for his in a black market neural swap down in the Jersey labs, whispering, "Your turn," as our souls flipped like a bad bet in Vegas, because some debts you don't pay with money. You pay with everything. It started in the sprawl of suburban Connecticut, where the leaves turn blood red every fall and the old money families like ours pretend their skeletons are just heirloom antiques gathering dust in the attic. Our folks built an empire out of biotech patents. Dad's the quiet genius who patented the neural interfaces that let Wall Street traders jack into market feeds like they're mainlining caffeine. Mom's the shark, closing deals that swallow startups whole. And then there were U.S. Jake, the golden boy, 6 years older, with his Ivy League jawline and that effortless charm that made professors and investors alike hand him the keys to the kingdom. Me, Olivia, the afterthought. The girl who tagged along to boarding school on scholarship scraps. Always the bridesmaid in our family's perfect wedding photo of success. Jake used to ruffle my hair and call me Livy the Brainiac back when we were kids building forts in the estate's manicured woods. He'd sneak me into his treehouse, sharing contraband comics and dreaming up ways to outsmart Dad's security bots. But puberty hit him like a freight train of entitlement, and by high school, I was just the shadow he stepped over on his way to lacrosse stardom and that full ride to Yale. "Stop pretending to matter. Live," he'd say with that half-smirk. Whenever I'd pitch an idea at the dinner table, some tweak to Dad's neural tech that could revolutionize empathy mapping for therapy apps, he'd laugh it off. And Mom would chime in with, "Boys will be boys, dear. Focus on your studies." Dad? He'd just pour another scotch and stare at the financials. I swallowed it all. Because that's what little sisters do in families like ours. We grind in the labs while the princes parade. By 22, I'd clawed my way into Dad's R&D division at Neuralink Corp, buried in code for adaptive algorithms that could predict user burnout before it fried their synapses. Jake, fresh out of Yale Law, waltzed in as VP of Acquisitions at 28, schmoozing venture capitalists over steak at Del Frisco's. He poached my projects, rebranded them as his visionary pivots, and watched the stock tick up while I got a pat on the back and a 2% raise. But the real rot festered deeper, in the secrets we both kept like loaded guns under the bed. It was 2 years ago, a muggy July night in the city, when Jake called me frantic from his penthouse in Soho. "Liv, get here now. It's bad." I drove in from Connecticut, heart pounding, imagining overdose or car wreck, anything but what I walked into. His fiancée, Sarah, blonde, ambitious, the kind of wasp perfection that made Instagram weep, was sprawled on the marble floor of his kitchen, eyes glassy, a spilled glass of rose staining the grout like diluted blood. Jake was pacing, sweat beading on his forehead, his Harvard cufflinks glinting under the recessed lights. She just collapsed," he stammered. But I smelled it, the faint chemical tang of Dad's experimental neural enhancer, the one we'd been testing in Phase 2 trials. Overdose. And not accidental. The vial on the counter was half empty, fingerprints smudged. "Call 911, I hissed, already dialing. But Jake grabbed my wrist. "No. You don't get it. This stuff isn't FDA approved. If it traces back..." His eyes darted to the safe in the wall. where the prototypes were stashed. Sarah had been pushing him to optimize their date nights with it, edgier highs, deeper connections. He dosed her without telling her the risks. Manslaughter at best. If the board found out, Neuralink stock would crater. I should have walked. Should have let the chips fall. But he was my brother, the kid who'd once bandaged my scraped knee and promised we'd conquer the world together. I'll handle it, I said, voice steady as I pocketed the vial. Clean up. I'll say I was here alone, testing samples. Lies spilled easy after that. I'd been working late. Invited Sarah over for a consult on user feedback. Accidental ingestion during a demo. By morning, the cops had my statement, my access logs, my tears. Jake stood in the back of the precinct, anonymous in a crowd of suits, mouthing thank you as they cuffed me. The trial was a circus. DA painted me as the reckless prodigy. Dr. Frankenstein in heels, chasing breakthroughs at the cost of human life. Our family lawyers dragged their feet, Mom's orders, to avoid embarrassing associations. Jake testified as the grieving brother, voice cracking just enough to sell it. Olivia's brilliant, but brilliant people make mistakes. The jury bought it. 25 to life. Upstate at Bedford Hills. As the van pulled away, I caught his eye through the bars, smug, satisfied. He'd inherit the C-suite, marry some new socialite, and bury the truth deeper than Sarah's casket. Prison broke me in ways textbooks never warn about. The fluorescent hum that never stops. The way hope curdles into routine. But it forged something sharper. 2. In the library, I devoured legal briefs and underground zines smuggled in by the guards' side hustles. That's how I learned about the swaps, black market neural transfers, the dark underbelly of Dad's tech. Not sci-fi body snatching, but a full synaptic rewrite, consciousness uploaded, downloaded into a blank slate host. Experimental, illegal, but thriving in Jersey warehouses where Russian coders and burned-out execs traded souls like crypto. It cost everything. I pawned Mom's heirloom pearls through a conjugal contact, begged favors from the warden's cousin who ran a chop shop for medical gear. 6 months of prep, psych evals to map my engrams, blood work to sync our profiles. Jake had to be sedated, easy mark at his bachelor party in Atlantic City, roofied by a hired escort with a syringe hidden in her garter. They hauled him to the lab in a blacked-out van, me waiting in a gurney across the room, wired to machines that hummed like Judgment Day. The doc, a wiry ex-Neuralink engineer named Victor, nursing a grudge against Dad for patent theft, did the deed at 3 a.m. under flickering halogens. No takebacks, he grunted, as the needles pierced our necks. Pain like lightning forking through my skull, memories fracturing and reforming. I woke up gasping in Jake's body, taller, heavier, the world tilting from a new center of gravity. His reflection stared back, sharp cheekbones, that perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. I flexed his fingers, felt the ghost of my own smaller hands overlaid. Across the room, my old shell stirred, Jake's eyes fluttering open in Olivia's face, confused, then horrified. Olivia, he croaked, in my voice. I smiled his smile. Surprise. Bro. Welcome to the other side. They dumped us back in our lives like swapped luggage at the airport. Him, in my body, shipped back to Bedford with a cover story, early release for good behavior, witness protection, or some bullshit Victor fabricated. Me, in his stumbling into his penthouse as the sun rose over the Hudson, hungover cover intact. The world bought it because Jake's world, our world, runs on appearances. Board meetings blurred by in his tailored Armani. Handshakes that lingered too long from assistants who eyed me like fresh meat. I played the part, cocky quips, late nights at strip clubs, sealing deals that fattened the empire. But underneath, I was building. Quietly, like termites in the foundation. First, the paper trail. I accessed his Mayo laptop, the one with the encrypted partition hiding the real story of Sarah's death. Emails to suppliers pushing for higher doses, texter begging just one more hit. Babe, it'll be epic. I forwarded copies to a burner account, time-stamped for posterity. Then, the allies. Jake had burned bridges everywhere, ex-partners stiffed on equity, rivals iced out of bids. I reached out anonymously, posing as a whistleblower. Heard your ode. Let's talk. Power's a drug. And in his skin, I mainlined it. At Neuralink galas, I'd catch Mom's approving nod, Dad's rare grunt of pride. You're on fire, son, he'd say, clapping his shoulder. Irony tasted sweet. Jake, meanwhile, rotted in my old cell, filing appeals that went nowhere. I'd get updates from Victor's network, him ranting to cellmates about imposters, scribbling manifestos on prison stationery. Pathetic. He'd send letters to the house. In my handwriting, pleas for help, accusations of theft. Mom burned them unread. The first strike came subtle, a feint to test the waters. I leaked a prototype glitch to the Times, nothing lethal, just enough to tank a quarter's earnings. Stock dipped 8%. Jake's legacy project shelved. Whispers in the halls. What's up with VP Jake? Sloppy. He caught wind in lockup, smuggling a smuggled phone call to Mom. It's not me. It's her. She's in my body. She laughed it off as delusion. The stress of incarceration. But I saw the flicker in her eyes at the next family brunch. Doubt. Like a crack in fine china. Emboldened, I escalated. Hooked up with his ex. Tessa, the one he'd ghosted after she got too clingy post-Yale. She was a rising star at Goldman. Sharp as a stiletto. Over oysters at Grand Central. I confessed fragments. Jake's not who you think. Neither am I. Her laugh turned to intrigue when I dropped the emails. We betted that night. Not for his charm, but mine, Olivia's fire in Jake's frame. By dawn, she was in, funneling insider tips to short sellers, priming the pump for a bigger fall. Jake fought back, in his impotent way. A shiv attempt in the yard, thwarted by guards, landing him in solitary. Letters multiplied. Now to Dad. Test the DNA. It's me. But Dad, ever the scientist, ran the panels quietly. Results? Inconclusive. Victor's hack masked the synaptic signatures. Still, it planted seeds. At board meetings, Dad's gaze lingered on me a beat too long, probing. The tension coiled tighter, a noose of my own weaving. I started dosing myself, his body, with the neural enhancer, the very poison that killed Sarah. Low doses, just enough to sharpen the edges, visions flickering at the periphery, whispers of alternate lives where I was the heir, not the scapegoat. It amplified the rage, turned strategy into symphony. I seduced the CFO's wife at the holiday mixer, recording her pillow talk about embezzlement schemes Jake had greenlit. Blackmail fodder. Filed away. By spring, the empire teetered. I orchestrated a hostile bid, anonymous shell companies snapping up shares, pressuring the board for leadership changes. Mom cornered me in the executive washroom. "What's gotten into you, Jacob? This isn't like you." I leaned in, close enough to smell her Chanel No. 5, and murmured, "Maybe it's always been me, Mother. The real me." Her face paled, but she straightened, spine steel. "Don't test me, son." He broke then.
Jake did.
Victor smuggled in a visit, me and his body, him and mine, face to face across a plexiglass divide in a nondescript Jersey motel. Guards bought off with Neuralink script. His eyes, my eyes, bulged with hate. "Give it back, you bitch." "This isn't a game." I traced a finger along the glass, his lips parting in involuntary response. "Oh, it's a game,
Jake.
and you're losing. Remember, Sarah? How you begged me to lie. This is payback. Pixel by pixel." He lunged, but the cuffs held. "You're destroying everything. Dad's legacy." "Your legacy," I corrected. "I built the code that powers it. You just signed the checks." We stared, mirrors of each other now. Souls swapped, but sins laid bare. He slumped, whispering, "Please,
Live.
family." The word hung, a ghost of forts and treehouses. For a heartbeat, I wavered, then crushed it. "Family's what got me here." As I left, the enhancer hummed in my veins, a flash of Sarah, laughing in the kitchen, trusting him, trusting us.
Gone.
The boardroom coup hit like a summer squall. I walked in with my proxies, Tess's short sellers turned allies, the CFO sweating bullets under my thumb. Motion to oust. VP Jacob's erratic decisions have eroded shareholder value. Votes tallied, 7-4. Mom abstained. "Face a mask." "Dad?" He seconded it. Voice gravel. "For the good of the company." Jake watched from a TV in the rec room.
They say.
Smashed the screen with his tray, screaming my name, his name, in a voice that echoed mine. But power's fickle, and I was playing with fire. That night, pounding rain on the penthouse windows, Dad summoned me to the estate. The study smelled of leather and regret, his neural rig humming softly on the desk. "Sit," he said. "Not a request." I did, in Jake's slouch. He synced us, electrodes on temples, a quick dive into synaptic logs. The truth unspooled, my engrams, laced with Olivia's patterns, glaring like neon. "You're not my son," he said flatly, disconnecting. No shock, just weary calculation. "You've been efficient. But this ends." I laughed his laugh, booming. "Ends? I'd just save your ass from Jake's screw-ups. The leaks, the bids, it was all to flush out the rot." Him. Dad's eyes narrowed, the scientist dissecting. "And you? What rot do you carry, Olivia?" The enhancer surged then. Unbidden, a hallucination? Or truth? Sarah's face flickered in the lamplight, but twisted, not victim, but architect. "Tell him," she mouthed. My pulse thundered. The emails I'd found, Jake's. Incriminating. But buried deeper, in a subfolder labeled contingency, correspondence between Sarah and
Me? No.
forged timestamps, but the voice analytical, detached. "If he balks, dose him double. Make it look like her experiment. Ice in my veins." Not Jake's plot. Ours? No, hers and Jake's? The swap blurred lines. Memories overlapped like wet paint. Had I known, suppressed it, to protect him? Or was it the enhancer's lie, gaslighting me into madness? Dad watched, probing. The trial. You took the fall willingly. Why? Because he asked. I whispered, but it rang hollow. Flashes. That night. Not Jake pacing, but me, vial in hand, offering it to Sarah. Try it. For us. Jake entering late, finding us her convulsing, me frozen. His panic. My cover. Not betrayal.
Complicity.
The room spun. I'd built the poison literally, coding the enhancer's delivery matrix. Jake covered for me. Or tried to. But I twisted it, made him the villain in my narrative, to justify the swap. The power I'd quietly built? It was illusion. A house of mirrors reflecting my own guilt. Sirens wailed distant. Mom's doing? No doubt. Tipping the feds. Dad stood, hand on the door. Fix it, or I will. I fled to the lab. Victor's ghost rig still warm. Reverse the swap, call Jake back, but as needles pricked. The truth inverted, Jake hadn't betrayed me. I'd betrayed us both, gifting him the fall to escape my shame. In his body, I'd amplified it, destroyed the empire, the family, myself. The machine word. Souls flipped again. I woke in my old skin, frilier, marked by prison ink and time.
Jake,
in his, blinked across the room. Free now. Live. Not hate. Relief. But the feds breached then. Guns drawn. Jacob Hargrove. You're under arrest for fraud and conspiracy. They'd trace the shells. The leaks to him.
To me.
He took the cuffs, glancing back. It was always us against the world.
Sis.
Even when we forgot. I nodded. Tears hot. The real power? Forgiveness. Maybe. Or just survival. As they led him away, I whispered to the empty lab, stop pretending to matter. But who was I kidding? We both did. Always had. In the end, the empire crumbled, Dad's resignation, Mom's exile to the Hamptons bottle.
Me?
House arrest in the estate. Coding open-source neural aids for trauma recovery. Jake, 10 years. Plea deal. We write letters, not accusations. Hooks and ladders. Rebuilding. Was it justice? Revenge? Or just the ugly math of family? You tell me. In America, where dreams swap bodies overnight, who's the villain? The one who strikes first? Or the one who lets it happen? The letters from Jake started arriving 3 weeks after the swap, scrawled in my looping script on prison issue paper, smelling faintly of bleach and despair. Live. If you're reading this, it's really you.
The real you.
God. I hope. I'd burn them at first. Flames licking the edges in the penthouse's gas fireplace. Watching my words curl to ash. But curiosity's a bitch. And power's an itch you can't scratch quiet. So I read one. Late. Enhancer buzzing in my blood like bad espresso. He detailed the swap's aftershocks, nightmares of Sarah's last gasp in his lungs. My code, his now, haunting him in fever dreams. I didn't mean for it to go this far. The vial was for me. Stress tabs for the merger. She took it from my drawer, Thought it was Molly. Lies? Or the crack in his armor. I filed it away. Another thread in the web. Meanwhile, life in his skin sharpened to a razor's edge. Mornings, I'd suit up in his closet, Zegna wool that hung like armor, and hit the streets of Manhattan, the city's pulse sinking with the enhancer's thrum. I'd stride through Midtown like I owned it, because for the first time, I kind of did. Coffee at Blue Bottle. Bloskas my muet. Then the subway to Neuralink's tower in Hudson Yards. Irony. Riding the rails in a body built for chauffeured town cars. The office was a viper pit. All glass walls and whispered alliances. Carla, Jake's assistant, handed me the docket with a flirtatious linger. Rough night.
Boss?
You look intense. I flashed his grin, but laced with my edge. The best kind.
Carla.
Pulled a Q3 projections and coffee. Extra shot. She scurried, heels clicking, oblivious to the storm brewing. My first real move was surgical. Audit the acquisitions Jake had rammed through. Buried in the ledgers, like maggots in filet mignon, were kickbacks, shell LLCs funneling cash to his offshore accounts in the Caymans. Sarah had sniffed it out, confronted him that night. She threatened to go public, his letter confessed later. I panicked. Hid the vial to make it look like yours. Phase truth. Perhaps. But it gave me leverage. I called in the hounds, external auditors from Deloitte, masked as routine compliance. Due diligence, I told the board. Jake's voice smooth as bourbon. They nodded, trusting the heir apparent. Reports landed like grenades, discrepancies, flagged transfers. Fingers pointed at mid-level drones first, scapegoats to shield the throne. But I leaked the real docs to Bloomberg, anonymous tip from concerned insider. Headline: Neuralink VP's shadow empire, kickbacks and cover UPS. Stock plunged 12%. Emergency meeting in the war room. Dad at the head. Mom flanking like a Secret Service detail. Jacob. Explain this, Dad growled, tablet glowing within criminals. I leaned back, steepling his manicured fingers. Sloppy oversight, father. But I've got a plan: divest the bad assets. Restructure under new ethics protocols. Mom's eyes narrowed, scenting blood. This reeks of sabotage. Who's feeding the press? I met her gaze. Unflinching. Maybe someone who cares about the legacy more than the lies. The room chilled. Dad adjourned. But not before murmuring to me. My office. After. Alone with him. The air thick with ozone from his rig. He didn't sink us. Too risky, but probed verbally. Socratic style. You always were the coder. Olivia. Patterns. Jake's too impulsive for this precision. I played dumb. What are you on about? Dad? It's Jake here. He chuckled. Dry as dust. Humor me. If it were her, what would she want? Vengeance? Or vindication? I left without answering. Enhancers sparking visions. Dad in the lab. Years back. Tweaking my code for stability. Had he known about Sarah's death? Buried it to protect the stock? The family's secret wasn't Jake's alone, it was ours. Woven into the DNA of Neuralink. That night, Tessa entered the frame. I'd spotted her at an alumni mixer, Jake's Yale crowd. All trust funds and microaggressions. She was the outlier, first gen. Clawed her way to partner at a boutique firm. Eyes like polished obsidian. Jake had dated her senior year. Dumped her when Mom deemed her distracting.
Now.
She eyed me, across the room with cool disdain. I approached with a modified Jake line. Tessa Reyes? Still breaking hearts and balance sheets. She arched a brow. Jacob Hargrove. Heard you're tanking your dad's company. Slumming it. Banter flowed. Edged with barbs. Over Manhattans at the St. Regis. I cracked the facade. What if I told you Jake's not Jake? And the real one's got scores to settle. She didn't bolt. Laughed. Low and throaty. In this town, I'd say buy me another drink and spill. By last call, we'd traded numbers and truths. Hers, Jake's ghosting had tanked her confidence. Nearly her career. Mine, fragments. The swap veiled as corporate espionage gone metaphysical. She bought it. Or pretended to. Revenge is a dish best served with interest, she purred, sealing it with a kiss that tasted like absinthe and alliance. We schemed in her walk-up in the village, exposed brick. Bookshelves groaning with finance tomes and dog-eared Neruda. She mapped the shorts, coordinated cells timed to my leaks, amplifying the bleed. In return, I fed her Neuralink intel, patent filings ripe for her clients' raids. Bed became battlefield, bodies tangling in a proxy war. You're not him, she gasped once. Post-climax, tracing his jaw. Better, I replied,
Meaning it.
Olivia's intensity in Jake's frame, a weapon honed. Jake's responses ramped up, letters turning frantic. Tessa? Stay away. She's poison. Too late. He escalated in the yard. They said, bartered cigs for a contraband phone. Dialing the house line. Mom picked up. Voice clipped. Jacob?
Or.
Whoever. He babbled, the swap. The betrayal. Sarah's real story. She hung up, but forwarded the recording to me. His voice in my timbre, broken, pleading. Tell Dad it's me. Please. Live. End this. I deleted it, but slept fitful. Enhancer dreams replaying the kitchen, Sarah's laugh. Then choke. My hand on the vial? No, hers. Defiant. For the story, she'd said. Journalism major. Digging into Neuralink's underbelly for her thesis. Jake caught her. Argued. Struggle. Accidental? Or my code? Unstable. Turning enhancer to accelerant. Doubt gnawed. A rat in the walls. I hit Victor's lab for clarity, synaptic scrub. Cleanse the overlaps. He refused. Eyes darting. Too deep now. Memories bleed both ways. But he slipped me a drive, raw logs from the swap. I pored over them in the penthouse. City lights blurring. There, Jake's engrams, laced with guilt. Hid evidence to protect her. Livy's fault. But mine too. Protect me? From what? The drive revealed more. Emails from Dad to Jake. Pre-trial. Handle it quietly. Olivia's dispensable. You're the future. Dispensable. The word ignited fresh fury. Family wasn't blood, it was ledger lines. Assets and liabilities. I struck harder. Orchestrated a whistleblower symposium, anonymous panel at TechCrunch disrupt. Ethics in neurotech. Former exec, me. Masked, detailed the enhancer's dangers. Sarah's death as cautionary. Live streamed. Viral. Protests outside the tower. Neuralink kills. Stock hemorrhaged 20%. Board panic. Emergency vote on CEO succession. Mom called me to the estate. Wine cellar, chilled bottles like guillotines. Resign. Jacob. Or we expose you. Her. In pearls and power suit. flanked by lawyers. I swirled his scotch. Expose what? Mother? The daughter you sacrificed? Or the son who followed orders? She faltered. Then steel. It was mercy. Sarah's death, your experiment, would have ruined us all. Jake took the heat off by adjusting the narrative. Adjusting. Code for framing me cleaner. I laughed.
Bitter.
And now, you think you can swap back the pieces? She poured another. Blood's thicker. Fix it, or we bury you both. I left with a kiss on her cheek, cold, calculated. The war turned inward. Tessa waited in the lobby, sensing the shift. What's the play? Over takeout in her loft, pad thai and paranoia, we plotted the endgame. Hostile takeover, her firm leading a consortium, buying out the board at fire sale prices. I'd retire Jake. Install myself as interim CEO, Olivia's vision rebranded. But the enhancer betrayed me that week. Blackout in a meeting, waking to whispers. Imposter. Dad's doing? He'd synced the board subtly, planting doubts. Carla quit, citing creepy vibes. Even Tessa eyed me wary. You okay? Look like you've seen a ghost. Jake's final letter arrived then. Smuggled via Victor. Stop. It's not what you think. Dad knew about Sarah, pushed the enhancer for military contracts. We covered for him. You're destroying the wrong monster. The twist hit like vertigo. Patterns realigned. Dad's patents. Not Jake's kickbacks. Funded black ops, neural warfare. Swaps for spies. Sarah uncovered it. Threatened WikiLeaks. Dad orchestrated the accident, Jake and I as pawns. I'd taken the fall to shield the family secret, but Jake. He'd confessed to Dad. Gotten the VP bump as hush money. Rage redirected. But the machine was in motion. The bid launched, consortium storming the tower. Tessa at the helm. Chaos. Reporters swarming. SEC on speed dial. Dad barricaded in the C-suite. Mom dialing crisis PR. I confronted him. Enhancer maxed. You built this hell. For what? Power? He synced us then. Forced, electrodes clamping. Truth flooded. Yes. The contracts. Sarah's death. Engineered via tainted batch from his lab. You were complicit. Olivia. Your code made it possible.
No.
I'd refused the military tweaks. Or had I? Memories forked, signing off. Or Jake forging. The doors burst, feds. Tipped by Mom.
Dr. Hargrove.
Fraud and homicide. Him. Not me. But as cuffs clicked on his wrists, he smiled. Run.
Daughter.
The real swap's just beginning. Tessa pulled me out. Into the fray. We did it. Victory? Or Pyrrhic? Jake called from inside. Phone privilege. One last time. Come clean. Live. For Sarah. I hung up. Enhancer fading. The power I'd built? Smoke. But the fall? Ours to share. The aftermath of the bid was a fever dream of depositions and dollar signs. The kind of Manhattan meltdown that makes tabloids salivate. Tessa's consortium swallowed Neuralink whole, rebranded as Synaptech. Her at the helm. Me as shadowy CTO in Jake's fading footprint. Your vision, she said over champagne at the Polo Room. Clinking glasses to the ghosts we'd exorcised. But victory tasted like ash. Laced with the enhancer's withdrawal, headaches pulsing like Morse code, memories glitching between skins. I ghosted the penthouse, crashing at Tessa's loft, Her domain now. Walls lined with victory clippings and half-read briefs. Nights blurred into strategy sessions turned intimate. Her touch a tether against the unraveling. "You're slipping," she'd murmur, tracing the veins in my arm where needles had scarred. "Let Olivia out," I tried. In whispers, stories of prison bunks and smuggled books. The quiet rage that birthed the swap. She listened, eyes soft, but I caught the calculations, asset or liability. Jake's appeals dragged, a legal limbo in upstate gray. Victor fed me updates, him pacing cells, thinner. My old fire dimmed in his frame. "He asks about you," Victor grunted over burner calls. "Says forgive." Forgiveness? A luxury for the unswapped. I sent one letter back, terse. "Earn it." Enclosed, a USB of Dad's Black Ops files. Liberated from the tower's servers. Whistleblower ammo for his lawyers. Petty mercy.
Or ploy.
Even I couldn't parse. Dad's trial loomed like thunderheads over the Hudson, federal courthouse in Foley Square. Summer heat baking the sidewalks. Mom testified first. Poise cracking under cross. Robert was visionary. Not villainous. But the dockside seated, contracts with DARPA, enhancer specs for, enhanced interrogation, painted him hydra-headed. Jake took the stand day 3. In my body, frail pantsuit, voice quavering. He made us choose, family or fallout. We chose wrong. The gallery murmured, reporters scribbling. Hargrove air turns. I watched from the back. Incognito in a blonde wig and Jake's old trench. Enhancer ghosts flickering. Sarah beside me. Spectral. Mouthing truth. When Dad's turn came, he dismantled it all, calm. Professorial. My children acted out of love. Olivia's brilliance. Jacob's loyalty misguided, but pure. Jury ate it up. Mistrial whispers swirled. Outside. Post-adjournment scrum. Mom spotted me. Wig askew in the scuffle. "You," she hissed, dragging me to a coffee card alcove. "This circus you're doing?" Her eyes, bloodshot, searched his face for mine. I dropped the pretense. We both know whose hands pulled the strings. Mother. She deflated, ordering lattes like it was brunch. He was protecting us. The contracts. They funded your education. The estate. Sarah? Collateral. Collateral. The word ignited. She was digging her dirt. For justice. Mom sipped.
Bitter.
Justice is for suckers. Olivia. Powers for survivors. We parted enemies. But she slipped me a key, estate safe. For old times. The safe held horrors, ledgers of payoffs, including to the judge on my case. Jake's promotion? Bribe sealed. My fall? Orchestrated to bury Sarah's probe. But deeper, a neural map. Dad's pet project, Echo Protocol, full soul transference, not temp swaps. Prototype logs named me as lead coder. Olivia Hargrove, ethical concerns noted, but potential unlimited. Unlimited. The enhancer had been my design, weaponized empathy to bridge divides in interrogations. I'd buried the risks, chasing Dad's nod. Complicity. Full circle. Tessa confronted me that night. Loft lit by laptop glow. "You're using again." The vial on the counter, half empty, raided from the lab. I shrugged his shoulders. Keeps the edges sharp. Fight erupted, her accusing theft of our company's secrets. Me snapping about pawns and princes. "You wanted Jake's power," she yelled. Not his mess. Truth stung. I stormed out into the village rain, hailing a cab to Connecticut. The estate loomed dark, leaves whispering accusations. I cracked the study, Dad's rig humming phantom. Synced solo, risky, uncalibrated. Entrainment pulled me under, visions of the kitchen. Sarah alive, vial in my hand. Test it, I urged. Her eyes wide. For the article? Struggle, no. Embrace. Jake entering. Horror. What have you done? Not his dose, mine. Shared. Accidental death.
But my push.
He hid it. Took the VP to silence me. Betrayal? Protection. Surfacing. Sweat-soaked. The twist crystallized. I'd swapped to escape guilt. Not avenge it. Jake in my body. His penance. Wearing my shame. Dawn broke. I drove to Bedford Hills. Visitor log faked via Victor's hacks. Plexiglass again. But reversed, me in his shell. Him in mine. He leaned in. My eyes hollow. You came. Truth time, I said. Voice gravel. Sarah. It was me. The words hung. Leaden. He nodded. Slow. I know. Saw it in the logs. Post-swap.
Covered because.
Brothers. Sisters. But blood. We talked hours, forts. Treehouses. The empire's weight. Dad used us, he said. But we let him.
Pardon? No.
But alliance. He'd testify full in Dad's retrial. Expose the protocol.
I.
Reverse the swap. Victor style. But partial merge engrams. Hybrid souls. Shared power, Jay quipped. Freaky, but fair. Tessa met me at the gate. Rain slicked. Heard you bailed. I pulled her close. His arm strong. Bailed on the lie. Join the real fight. She searched, then kissed. Always did like underdogs. Dad's retrial hitfall. Leaves flaming. Jake's testimony gutted. Echo was his endgame. Immortality for the elite. We were beta tests. Jury convicted. Life. No parole. Mom vanished to Europe. Estate sold. Neuralink, Synaptech now, pivoted under Tessa. Ethical AI. Open source swaps for therapy. But the merge? Victor's lab. Needles kissing necks. Pain. Then peace. Jake's charm in my spine. My grit in his laugh. We emerged one or two in tandem. Olivia Jake. Running R&D.
Power.
Quietly rebuilt, not thrown.
But bridge.
Sarah's grave. We visited together, hybrid voice reading her article. Published posthumous. Justice delayed, I said. Huey replied, but served. Was it redemption or delusion? In America's mirror maze. Who knows? The hook's in you now. Winter clamped Manhattan in ice. The kind that cracks underfoot and mirrors the fractures we'd patched. Synaptech hummed from the old tower. Rebranded sleek. Glass etched with neural webs. Not barbs. Tessa helmed the board. Her ascent meteoric. Forbes 30 under 30. Darling of the valley.
Me?
Us. We ghosted the C-suite. Burrowed in R&D basement labs. Coding echoes redemption. Therapeutic merges for PTSD vets. Consent locked. No black ops strings. The hybrid hummed, Jake's swagger lightening my steps. My precision steadying his impulses. Mornings. We'd spar in the mirror, smile natural. Bro, he'd quip internally. Less serial killer. Laughter echoed dual. A chorus in one skull. Nights at Tessa's, our loft now. Expanded, we three tangled sheets and secrets. Her the anchor. Freaky threesome, she'd tease. Tracing the scar where needles met. But it worked. Fragile equilibrium. Jake's release came spring, good behavior. Dad's conviction flipping priors. He stepped out in my old jeans, gaunt but grinning, into a world remade. Media circus, Hargrove air-free, swap scandal or sob story? We met at a dive in Hell's Kitchen, burgers and bud. Anonymous booth. His eyes, mine lit. Feels weird. Being me again. Awkward hug. Then flood. Plans. Amends. Sarah's foundation, he proposed. Fund investigative journos. Neuroethics grants.
We nodded. In.
But ghosts lingered. Mom surfaced in May. Email from Monaco. Visit. Unfinished business. We flew private, Synaptech jet. Irony thick, landing in Côte d'Azur sun. Her villa perched cliffs. Infinity pool bleeding into sea. Lunch, escargot and evasions. You won, she said, rose flushing cheeks. But at what cost? The safe's contents. She'd preserved my old prototypes. Annotated. You were always the star. Olivia. Jacob. Adequate. Twist of the knife, Jake's internal flinch. Why frame me, we pressed. She sighed. Waves crashing below. To toughen you. The world's no place for soft coders.
Lie.
Or maternal delusion. We synced her rig vintage. Dusty. Diving shallow. Truth surfaced. Fear. Not malice. Dad's debts. Pre-empire. Sarah's probe threatened bankruptcy. Sacrifice one for all. We emerged raging. But she handed a drive. Offshore codes. Laundered clean. Yours now. Build better. Forgiveness?
Not yet.
But seed planted. Back stateside. The real high wire. Echo rollout. FDA trials in Boston. Vets queuing for merges. Trauma offloaded to digital twins. Souls lightened. Protests flared. Playing God. Pickets at Mass General. Evangelicals decrying soul theft. We testified. Hybrid voice steady. Not theft sharing. Empathy engineered. Jake's charm sold it. My data sealed. Approval granted. Stock soared. Tessa proposed over skyline dinner. One World Observatory. City at our feet. Marry me.
Us.
Whatever this is. Ring triple set. Diamonds winking. We accepted. Laughing. Big wedding or elope? Eloped. Vegas, neon and notaries. Jake's old crew as witnesses. Bewildered. But you darkness crept. Enhancer residue mine. Lingering, sparked flares. Visions of Sarah. Accusatory. You profited. Night terrors. Waking slick. Victor warned. Merge unstable. Full revert or boom. We ignored. Pushing Echo Phase 2. Civilian apps. Divorce therapy. Identity crises. Crisis hit July 4th. Fireworks over the Hudson. Synaptech Gala on a yacht. Jake split for a smoke. Me steering the helm internal. Flare hit. Blackout. Body seizing. Guests gasped. Tessa diving. Call 911. Hospital. Synaptic storm. Merge fracturing. Ducts probed. Dual engrams clashing. Risky separation. We chose revert. Victor's final favor. Lab prepped. Needles bit. Worlds inverted. Woke separate. Me and Olivia's frame. Smaller. Scarred. Jake across. Tall again.
Tentative.
Hey. Sis. Hug real. No ghosts. Recovery blurred. Physical therapy. Couples counseling with Tessa now are shared. Negotiated. Jake moved in. Loft to commune. Coding marathons. Takeout fueled. Echo stabilized. Sans military taint. Open source. Global. Mom's funeral came fall. Heart attack. Sudden. In nice. We flew. Scattering ashes off the cliffs she loved. To new beginnings. Jake toasted. Bottle to sea. No tears. Closure. The twist lingered. Though a letter from Dad's cell. Smuggled pre-suicide. Hanged. Whispers said. You were right.
Kids.
Power corrupts quietest. Filled without me. Enclosed. Patent waiver. Echo ours free.
We did.
Synaptech thrived. But we, consultants now. Traveling. TED Talks in Vancouver. Hackathons in Berlin. Jake wrote memoir. Swapped Shadows. Bestseller. Proceeds to Sarah's fund. I coded quietly. Algorithms for truth detection. No more poisons. Tessa and I wed proper. Central Park. Autumn blaze. Jake walked me. Arm in arm. Vows. In sickness.
Swap.
Or sanity. Laughter rippled. Ending? Happy. You'd say empire redeemed. Family fused. But debate it. Did we avenge? Or just survive? Sarah's ghost smiles. Maybe. In America's grand swap meet. Who's to judge? The power we built? Ours. Loud now. No more pretending.